Hello guys, today I want to quickly talk about exceptions and try-catch blocks in Laravel and in PHP based on one Laracast forum question. So I've seen over my career some people get overly cautious with exceptions. So they have read about try-catch, about exceptions, and they try to apply them everywhere. And this is one of the examples, and I will show you what to do instead based on the documentation and other forum answers and also my own course. So this person asking a question is trying to put a try-catch block in every method of every controller, which is a good intention. So if something goes wrong in any of the method, you return the JSON with the error message. But there are things to improve here. So imagine create form, this response if something goes wrong, and throwable exception, which means any exception, then this error, and then this error. So the first thing I want to say about that is pretty pointless. You don't specify a specific error, it's just there was an error 500. It's the same as throwing internal server error in the browser with 500, which means your website user or your API user wouldn't even know what to do with that error. So you would need to provide a more meaningful message than this, and probably something out of 400 codes like 422 for validation, which means it's better to have additional work here somewhere or in the form request class in validation to validate the data, so to minimize the possibility of that exception to happen. So I would even call that kind of a lazy mode, so catch everything, show that there was an error, and then wishing good luck to the user how to overcome that error. And even here, catch throwable. There may be many exceptions happening. SQL error, records not found, something not uploading somewhere. So that's why people came up with the concept of exception. And it's not any exception. You can create your own exception classes, you can use Laravel or Symfony or PHP exception classes, and in case of different exceptions, you can provide different messages. That's what exceptions are for, not just for doing try-catch throwable. So from that point of view, this approach is pretty meaningless to me, although it comes from good intention informing the user that the error happened. And this is what we've been talking about in our course. I teamed up with my colleague Modestas to create this course, handling exceptions and errors in Laravel. And as usual, it becomes a tradition. It started as a tutorial, but then it grew so big into various topics, so we decided to form it as a course with 5,000 words. And we're talking about specific exceptions, how to create them, how to catch them, how to log them, and stuff like that. So if you want to dive deeper, I will link the course in the description below. But if you just want to know the basics of how to catch exceptions in these situations, I will show you the official Laravel documentation with the main things that you need to know. So if you want to render the exception, so something happened and you want to return JSON, for example, you can do something like this. In case of your specific exception happening, you can provide that as renderable and response whatever you want. Response JSON, response with blade view if you want to, return status code you want. So this should happen in the exception handler. So this way you're trying to catch a specific exception. But then another way, for example, perhaps even more used in practice from what I've seen. Renderable, for example, not found exception, standardize the error message for APIs. So if the request comes from API, then you return record not found instead of the default message by Laravel or Eloquent. Which means instead of doing try-catch in every method, you just do your things in controllers, again ideally providing validation before those actions, and then if something does go wrong, then your exception is overridden in the exception handler. Another way provided in the same forum topic by no last name is creating a middleware. So middleware with try-catch would do basically the same thing, and you would need to assign that middleware to all, for example, web requests, or you could assign that only to some requests or route group or something like that, which makes it a bit more flexible, so you can apply that logic only to some of the routes. I hope this video gets you a better idea of try-catch and exceptions. If you have any more questions, let's discuss in the comments. That's it for this time, and see you guys in other videos.